Welcome to SuperCrowd Chicago, live in person at Columbia College Chicago and streaming live internationally on the E360 TV network and across social media. Now we are fortunate to hear from our next speaker, who is Stephen Dynako. And, I'm so glad Stephen made the time to come today. Again, this is the third part of our portal trifecta that's here. Stephen represents Raise Green, and Stephen is a strategic innovator with a diverse background in finance, technology, media, clinical counseling, and is currently a climate, finance, and risk management consultant at Raise Green. He's held leadership roles at BMO Harris Bank and JP Morgan Chase, and co-founded the Hedge Fund Center, promoting transparency in alternative investments. We're thrilled to have Stephen here with us today. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Devin's level of organization and keeping all these plates spinning makes me feel stupid. So there you go. Just deep appreciation for this event and everything that you do to help promote our industry. So I'm with Raise Green. We are a crowdfunding portal, SEC registered crowdfunding portal that is exclusively focused on raising capital or facilitating capital raises for companies and organizations working on climate solutions. So I believe our first offer went up around 2020, and we recently hit our 40 deal milestone. Just this past spring, and we're open to being creative with the way that we help facilitate raises. So Raise Green has raised or facilitated raises of debt and equity on our platform. We've also done things like preferred equity and other types of structures. So we work with issuers to find the offering type or the security type that's best for them in their situation. So my presentation is called Streamlining Your Raise, and I appreciate everyone who's been with other portals who went ahead of me because you laid really good groundwork for where I'm going to pick up, because where I'm starting this presentation is from the standpoint of you have started your business, you've done all the legwork to determine your market, you've done your research, you've got a prototype of your product, or perhaps you've already been selling it and you're making revenue, and you're ready to actually do a crowdfund. So this is where I'm picking up my presentation. Okay, so basic elements of a crowdfund campaign. And I don't really have a lot of slides here because I'm mainly going to focus on this one because it really is all about the crowd. It is the perspective I'm taking here. So the crowd, as I define it, is your community, your supporters, your advocates, your stakeholders, your friends, your family, your best buddies, your cheerleaders, etc., and so forth. Okay. So very community-based. And what we've learned in some ways the hard way at Raise Green, and I've not been with Raise Green for its entire life. I've been with Raise Green for about a year and a half. So my experience in the grand scheme of things is relatively recent. However, I've learned a lot as Raise Green has in these past couple of years. And what we found when I say the basic element of crowdfunding campaign is first and foremost the crowd. It's really about knowing who is interested. Who is that community? Who are your supporters, your advocates? Who are the people that you're comfortable going to and promoting your business and asking for investment? Now, I will tell you, as an entrepreneur, I have been moderately successful at raising money for my businesses. I have failed more often than I've succeeded. So I know none of this is easy, and I don't want to suggest that what I'm presenting here is a slam dunk for anybody. This is hard stuff, and it's possible. And if you get if you get everything lined up right, you can make it a lot easier on yourself. And so thus streamlining your raise. So what we have found increasingly on our platform, and we're a climate focused platform. So, it's not consumer products. We have a lot of visionary entrepreneurs coming up with interesting and unique and innovative ways to help mitigate the climate crisis. Okay. So what we start with when we talk to an issuer, prospective issuer, is what kind of interest do you already have in your venture, right? So it's technically known as an indication of interest, or it's also called testing the waters. So expressing an interest or an indication of interest is like making a reservation in a restaurant, is the way you can consider it. So you're making a reservation, you're not committing to invest, but you are somewhat putting a stake in the ground and expressing to a prospective issuer that, hey, I really like what you're doing. If you go live with the campaign, I'm willing to invest anywhere between X and Y dollars. Okay. To conduct an indication of interest as a prospective issuer, the issuer is still technically offering to sell securities, so it's important to be compliant. And compliance has come up already with some of the previous speakers, so it's good to underscore it here as well. So everything about preparing for a crowdfund and then executing a crowdfund compliance is important. So when you are a prospective issuer in a crowdfund and you're doing an indication of interest, or it's a pre-campaign, let's call it, you need to have an established entity, so a certificate of incorporation and an EIN, and be mindful of what you cannot do with an indication of interest. So I say be mindful of the no's, and these include: you can't take any money with an indication of interest. You can't make any promises. You can't say our product's going to cure cancer, for instance. You can't promise that, and you can't say anything misleading. So no money, no promises, no fraud. And then whatever you do as an indication of interest. So let's say you reach out. Let's say your community is 20 people. And you reach out to all of them. You can send them emails. You can give them background on what you're seeking to do. You can tell the story of your business. And the stories are really the most powerful part of all this. Whatever you send in terms of collateral material, be sure to retain it, because you will have to include that in your actual filing when you do the crowdfund campaign. So the indications of interest offering is included in your actual filing when you do the crowdfund. Okay, so let me tell a little story. This was a learning for Raise Green and for one of our issuers that really kind of came the hard way, and it didn't have to be this hard. And this really underscores my whole point about indications of interest. So we're not even at the crowdfund campaign yet, right? So, but my story is based in one. So we had an issuer that had done a good amount of work to prepare a marketing campaign for its office. Really impressive, very thoughtful. We were very impressed with what they did and who they brought in to consult on this marketing campaign. Now, I'm a both and guy, right? So not either or guy, I'm a both and guy. So, we facilitate the campaign on behalf of the issuer, and it's really like crickets. So nothing's happening for a really long time. They get a couple of investments trickling in, $100 here, $200 there, but nowhere near where they need to be in order for the campaign to be successful. And for those, and you may know that you have to declare a minimum target for your campaign as well as a maximum. All right. So they were nowhere near the minimum. The minimum is what you've got to hit in order to be able to take the money at the end of the day and consider the campaign successful. So this issuer, really nice, slick marketing, excellent work doing it, but then the campaign's going nowhere, right? So we get to know the issuers when we work with them, because we provide a lot of services and helping them to onboard. So we know we know the issuer's former profession comes from a pretty affluent business as a professional, which means he knows a lot of people in his circle who are affluent. What he did not do initially was reach out to any of them to say, hey, I've started this company. I'm going to be doing a crowdfund campaign. I'd love if you'd invest. I want to tell you about my business. Can I get an indication of interest from you? So he finally did that about halfway through the actual crowdfund campaign. And we encouraged it. We said, hey, who's in your network that might be willing to invest in this? Surely you know some people. And he did. So he makes a couple of calls, and then like right off the bat, there's a $10,000 investment, $15,000 investment from his network. We wish he had done that before the campaign, because even though he met the minimum, I'm of the mind that he could have gotten a lot further to actually getting the maximum goal had the indication of interest been done before the campaign launched. So just that's the power of your network as a business owner. It's also, I attended a webinar recently where like VCs are starting to look at crowdfund campaigns a little bit more seriously, because what they're seeing is your ability as a founder to raise money from the people that you know. And if you can't raise money from the people that you know, why should somebody else who doesn't know you invest money in your business? Right? So this is why this slide is like my main slide, because it's the power of the crowd, the power of your network. Find the people who believe in you and are absolutely will invest in you if you talk to them. And again, it's not easy to do, and you never know what you're going to get. They won't, like a friend of mine once told me, they can't shoot you for asking, right? So beyond that, just a couple of quick mentions of other things with the crowdfund campaign. The Form C is the disclosure document when you actually go live with your campaign. It's the thing that you file with the SEC. It's all about detailing the risks of the business. So you've already done your business plan as a founder, you've done your market research, you've created your product or a prototype, what have you. When you do your Form C, it's all about disclosure and telling prospective investors what could go wrong. So don't try to spin it when you're doing your disclosure document. You'll save yourself a lot of time because it's all about risks, and disclosure. Okay, so don't waste your time with the Form C trying to spin your story, because you're going to be doing that through your marketing campaign and your indications of interest. The other document that's important is a subscription agreement. That's basically the security itself that investors will sign to make their commitment to your offering. And then the offering page. So like from the standpoint of a portal like us on Raised Green, the web page that we publish for your campaign is the offering page. Okay, so those are the base documents. And then the last thing, just from a regulatory standpoint, is you file. So you file with the SEC on a database called Edgar, which is extremely out of date. So it's going to be wonky, and it might take you 3 or 4 or 10 times to file successfully. So just be prepared for that. But it does work eventually. So what you do, you apply for what's called a central index key to get on Edgar. You create your Form C, like with the help of somebody like Raised Green, if you're raising with us. You file that. We actually facilitate that for you. We do all the work on Edgar so that you don't have to if you're doing a deal through us. And then there are a couple other forms as well. There's an update that gets filed when the campaign is done. And then the last thing I'll say here is, if you're an issuer and you have a crowdfund campaign, 120 days at the end of your fiscal year, you have to file what's called a Form CAR, which is an annual report. This is a gap in the industry right now. The SEC is finding that there are more issuers than not are not filing this Form AR. And I think what's probably going to happen is it's going to come back to bite a lot of issuers. So it's a very simple thing to do. It's basically an update of your Form C. You file it and you're done. If you're an issuer, do your Form CAR 120 days after your end of your fiscal year after the campaign is ended. And then a Form CTR is a termination of reporting if you don't think you're ever going to crowdfund again. And there's a question.
Thanks for taking a question during the talk.
Yeah,
I
you got
just
7
wanted
seconds
to
to
know
ask your question.
if you can file if you realize you forgot the Form AR and it's past the deadline, but now you realize it, and then they file it late, will there be penalties?
Not that I'm aware of yet. So I've underscore yet. So you can catch up and file that Form AR subsequently. You'll have to do it anyway, because if you're looking at doing a future raise, whether it's regulation CF or if you're going to do like a Reg A or a Reg D later, you have to be current on the Form annual report, the Form CAR. If you're not, you're going to be in trouble with the regulators. So, good question. And with that, that's my story. Thank you.